Technology is awesome. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the October 18th, 2022 City Council meeting. Can I have roll call, please? Rose.
Mayor Broglio.
Present.
Vice Mayor Herndon.
Present.
Councilmember Tiscornia.
Present.
Councilmember Moncada.
Present.
Councilmember Sherrado. Is absent.
Yep.
Staff is present.
Item 2 is Pledge of Allegiance. All rise. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item number 3 is report out of closed session. Direction was given to staff on item A. Item number 4 is approval of the agenda as posted or amended. Anybody that would like to amend a moment? If not, I would look for a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll make the motion. I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
May disapprove, same sign. 4-1. Item 5, public comment. The public may address the council on any items of public interest not otherwise on the agenda that is within the jurisdiction of the city. No actions may be taken. Matters to be addressed may be referred to city staff or placed on a subsequent meeting agenda. Speakers are limited to 5 minutes per person. Is there anybody with public comment? Come on up.
There's a sign-in sheet, please.
Okay, thank you.
And here's my.
Thank you, thank you all. Great. So tonight I'm representing the Destination Angels Camp. I'm not the president or the vice president, I'm like third string. So, you know, it's kind of like if Miss Calaveras can't do her stuff, the other people do it. They didn't give me a crown, so it's kind of, you know.
You deserve a crown.
I'm a little bitter. So, there's been a great deal said, repeated, and misinterpreted, and I'm not here to address any of that. It's exhausting and a waste of time. However, I feel compelled to speak this evening because of one of DAC's founders, Bob Trincaro. He was my mentor and a father figure to me. And he didn't have the advantage that some of us had. I always feel like he came 10 years late because he never saw downtown thriving. He never saw the children's shops and where we could buy clothes that weren't outdated and, you know, that kind of stuff. He never saw any of that. But he saw what Angels Camp could be, and which was really important. In 2010, a group of people started a branding committee. I think there was a grant, and eventually became an economic development company. The Destination Angels Camp Corporation is a California nonprofit organization. The mission of the corporation is to create a vibrant business environment showcasing Angels Camp's strengths and uniqueness, cultivate social and educational opportunities for residents, businesses, and visitors through economic and destination development. Some of the successes have been Dollar General, the new Mark Twain Clinic, and Tractor Supply. Since that time, there have been smaller businesses expand, some have closed, some have rebranded, and as you know, some of this was caused by the global pandemic. During this period, 2 larger projects chose other areas. I believe that during 2019 and 2020, DAC was vital to the city in other ways, assisting businesses through COVID-19, assisting the city through the PSPS and other informational campaigns. At this time, I believe between the relationship between the city and DAC, the lines were blurred. In some ways, good or bad, DAC became an extension of city services. So here we are, 2022, and we have a new city administrator, a new city council, new board members for DAC, and questions regarding the relationship between the city and DAC. And there's a great deal of confusion. In the past few months, DAC has changed their bylaws to comply with the opinion of the city's legal counsel and has developed a roadmap, our organization's strategic plan. DAC is not a purveyor or a vendor. We are an economic development organization who wants what you want, a thriving business climate in Angels Camp. If the city would like to sponsor our endeavors at some level, that would be amazing. However, if that is not the interest to the council, DAC is prepared to move forward with the organization's strategic plan. And I want to thank you for your time. I know this has been a lot, and you guys are all amazing, and it's hard to be a public servant, and thank you for doing that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Lori.
Any other public comment in the house? Any online this week?
None online.
I will close item 5, public comment. Move on to item number 6, consent agenda. Is there any public comment on the consent agenda? Or anybody want to pull anything on
I
consent
would like
items?
to pull item 8.
Okay. I also would too. We're probably after the same thing maybe. So I would look for a motion to approve items B or C.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed, same sign? B and C is. Okay, yes, let's do one.
I was not here, so I need to abstain from.
Oh, okay, so Isabel was not here, and then I want to change it from September 2022 to the October 4th, 2022. Anybody have public comment on that, or any? Seeing none, hearing none, I would look for a motion on item A then as amended.
I'll make the motion. I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed, same sign?
And I abstain.
Yep, can you hear now? Okay, item 7, regular agenda. Receive a presentation about the Central Sierra Economic Development District and strategic planning efforts. Rebecca County.
Okay, so the city and the county have been having discussions with this Central Sierra Economic Development District. Caroline represents the city, Ben Stopper and I think Amanda Collingworth are representing the county, or they kind of so we thought it was important that they get an opportunity to brief city council as well as the board of supervisors. We had talked about possibly doing like a joint meeting, but I just think the scheduling wasn't quite working out. So we agreed that this date would be great for them to give us an update. If you recall, or some of you might recall, there was a, they call it a SEDS, but it's a comprehensive economic development strategy survey, and that is out there online for anyone to take in any of these jurisdictions. We have it on our website, it's on the county's website, it's kind of all over the place, but it really is talking about how we can kind of strive together to bring various aspects of economic development to our region. So we have Vicki Dahl here and Fawn McLaughlin to give a presentation, and I really appreciate them making the time for us and filling the council and the public.
Okay, thank you. Well, we appreciate the time that you're giving us to bring you up to date. So as you said, I'm Vicki Dahl and my partner Fawn McLaughlin, and we have been working with North State Planning and Development Collective at Chico State in developing the Central Sierra Economic Development District SEDS. There has been a SEDS previously. This is each 5 years it needs to be updated. So that's the process that we're in now. So next slide, please. Okay. So I think the one thing to keep in mind is that This really is a regional economic development strategy. It's not intended to replace or compete with any local plans or strategies or projects that you have in place. It's meant to kind of bring them all together and leverage the different activities and leverage the resources that are available throughout the region and throughout the state to hopefully bring some of these projects to fruition. And next slide. So this is a quick summary of our timeline. We have been working on it, doing a lot of the data collection and research, interviews, as well as to go along with the survey. And we're in the midst of drafting some vision and goals, and we will be sending those out to the SENS committee, which is the Central Sierra Economic Development District. And we expect to have a draft of the strategies and plan to you, to the district, the SENS committee in next December. Once they accept the drafted SEDS, it is available for a 30-day public comment period, at which time, the conclusion of that, we'll make whatever revisions, corrections that are necessary. And then it goes to EDA, Economic Development Administration, and they also have a 30-day review. So it would come back sometime in late January for some additional information, clarifications, or whatever before it's actually accepted by EDA. So next slide. So this is kind of in a nutshell of the process. So we are identifying assets and challenges and opportunities, and this is all comes about through our public engagement, through our interviews, through information that we learned through the survey, and also the data. And all of this will be then incorporated into an action plan. So some goals, some objectives, some strategies, and implementation tactics. And it will also include performance metrics to on an ongoing basis to kind of track how well we're doing. And yes, so this these critical issues, and there's a similar slide later that is a result of some of the comments that were made in the surveys. But these basically are the critical issues that have been identified, and I don't think there will be a surprise to anyone. And I also want to point out that there are certain things like the reliable electric grid that definitely is a critical issue for all of California, and particularly for the Central Sierra area. And we recognize that that's not something that jurisdictions have any control over. But it's necessary within the sense that we identify what the challenges are that you're dealing with, because it does directly impact your successful economy. And next slide. Okay, so we don't have that's okay, we don't have the survey results. But if you want to go back to the previous slide, I would say that we had this really does match with what the results of the survey and even our interviews are coming out. So I think the good news is that everybody's aware of what your issues are and of what some of the opportunities are, which is that's kind of a hurdle to get over sometimes. Some areas don't want to accept that they have problems and issues, but we do. And our job is to see which of these we can tackle, which of these we can come up with some strategies to help you move things along and realize some of the opportunities that are available. I will just have a quick report on the survey. We have gotten, between survey returns and interviews, we've gotten participation from probably about 220, 225 or so individuals from throughout the county. One of the questions in the survey was ask them to identify where they live. Some chose not to, and that's fine. So we have some indication of the different jurisdictions that are participating, and others, there's just, a big chunk that just says unknown, unreported, and that they could be coming from anywhere. So, but I think overall, we're getting a fairly good representation from most of the jurisdictions. But we will keep that open, the survey open, and, feel free to continue to promote it and get people to respond. I just got 2 more participants this morning, so that's good. But we'll keep it open probably until we have the draft of the strategies established. John, if you had anything you wanted to add, or we can take some questions?
I have a question.
Let's see, Fawn's trying to talk.
You're trying to.
You're on mute.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to clarify that 220 responses were from the 5 counties and 2 cities, but, and we did get good representation from Calaveras County, and also we did make a presentation this morning via Zoom to the Board of Supervisors.
Perfect, thank you.
Uh-huh.
Council questions, staff questions to Fawn?
That was I was just wondering if it was from all 5 of the counties.
And we've put this, like I said, on our website. I did a Facebook post for it as well. We're really looking at, seems like we're all doing surveys right now, but just as much kind of voice of our region is important. She did point out within her presentation that it informs and builds on other statewide initiatives like the Community Economic Resilience Fund, or CERF. So that's where the idea that funding is going to start being regionalized. So it's really important that we have advocates in our area representing our particular areas to make sure that we're not left behind. So I had reached out to Debbie Pani and sent her information as well to make sure that, if they're interested in participating, we're looking for, hospitals, tribal agencies, kind of a cross section. It's not just about governmental agencies, it's also about large employers and large agencies that are impacting our residents and our culture and our economies. So it's just making sure everybody has a place at the table and is getting involved so that we have a good strategy going forward, so we have opportunities to get funding from programs like CERF.
Right. And related to that, and Vicki, maybe I'm saying in advance of you, but members of our team are working very closely with the SURF efforts. And so the work that's done here, because I think it's a little bit in advance, will be used to inform those SURF efforts as well.
Exactly. Yeah. And it is a big part of or a critical part of the SEDS is to acknowledge the use of other state and federal funding, and as well some of the strategies in here will hopefully benefit the different jurisdictions and the region as a whole in acquiring some of that funding.
Right, so that some of the strategies and the monies that become available through SURF could be used to advance the strategies in the SEDS.
I have one question.
And that will be part of what we will deliver for each strategy, or some ideas on some of the funding resources that would be appropriate for the different projects and tactics that we're proposing.
So this is Alvin. Good evening, ladies. I have a question on, I know there's 5 counties, but can this report be broken down into different areas, like let's say Copperopolis or Moke Hill or Arnold for us? Can you zoom in farther and closer, or does it just give a by county basis?
Well, on the data, we are collecting it because you have to collect by county, generally, most of the data is presented that way. So we will be, you will have data by county
Okay.
for each individual county as well as by region. So that would be helpful, I hope, for each of the individual jurisdictions to be able to use that data. And it's 5-year data where it's available, so there's a 5-year trend. You know, whether it's population growth, income, things like that.
Right. Yeah, and you said it was the option to check where they were from or whatever, but it just was optional if they had to check it or not. So.
Right. Right. So some of the comments in that we can't always identify from what jurisdiction
They're
they
from.
may be referencing.
Right.
Right, either for each county, but then even more specifically for each, you know, like Mobile or Copperopolis, we don't have that level
Right.
through the, yeah.
You know, unless they mention it within their comments, because we will provide you with the whole laundry list of all the comments and questions that they've presented. It won't be tied to any specific respondee, but you will have the laundry list of comments that they suggest.
Right.
Thank you. Is there any other council questions or staff? Any public?
I have a question.
Come on
So how is this?
Well, I'll open public comment.
Sorry.
You're fine. Come on up.
Stand up here. My question is, how is this questionnaire being distributed, or how are people learning about it? I had no idea about any of that. So if the county, 200 things being presented to this group is nothing for 5 counties. How many people are in Calaveras County alone? 40,000 people?
40.
And they have 200
5,000.
reports received. So how is it getting out to people? How do people know to even go to fill out the report in
So-
every of the counties?
Yeah, so some of this is why they're presenting here and making presentations at each of the respective jurisdictions' public meetings. So like I said, I pushed it out on social media, we put it on our Facebook page, and then in this staff report, in the staff report, I specifically say, you can also get paper copies by contacting Vicki Dahl, and I have her email and phone number there. But we can certainly, put it out like as a press release as well. But it's really going to take, this is an issue that we run into all the time, trying to get information out, because some people don't read newspapers, and some people only get their news on Facebook, and some people don't come to council meetings or board meetings.
Right,
Sometimes
I
it's just word of
understand
mouth.
all that. It just seems, I think a lot of people, in my opinion, aren't interested in what the government has to say, so they're not looking on
Right.
the city's websites or the county's websites or any of those. So if they're not being put out in other public avenues, then that's probably why they only have 200 applications or
Yeah.
whatever they even are that they're sending. So that's
Yeah.
just my question on how it's getting out there.
I think their hope too is that by presenting, they're hitting, like you're an audience that didn't know about it, so they're hitting you as well to help push
So
it.
what is your, I guess, the city of Angels Camp's projections of getting it out to the people within the city limits or within Calaveras County? I don't know.
Yeah, so that's really, we can handle the city jurisdiction. Calaveras County Board of Supervisors would obviously have to handle the unincorporated portions. What we've done is Facebook will do a press release, just like anyone else will do. There's very few avenues of getting it out. There's, we did, for our survey, we actually attended the larger farmers market to push it out, but outside of finding an event where we can find a lot of residents that are going to, we're relying on those other channels for outreach. And then word of mouth. So if you're hearing about it, we're hoping that you're going to also share it with other people.
So then we go to the city's website to find it? Is
Yeah,
that we
so
go to it?
there's actually a staff report in this packet, but if
Okay.
you go to if you follow our Facebook page, it's on
I
there.
don't, sorry.
If you go to our website and go under doing business, it's in there as well.
Okay.
So grab the packet that's on the 7A on the bottom of the page.
Okay.
And then
You
Vicky,
should put it in.
You can pack it, you can
I was
access
gonna
the packet
suggest
online
the
also.
post office.
Yeah.
The good old traditional bulletin
Well,
board.
or even
That's fine.
that,
We have
Vicky,
having issues putting stuff in the post office.
It's-
But
Oh, really?
Vicky and Fawn,
I'm saying-
what other ways have you guys been trying to get the survey information out?
Well, and much the same that you've been doing with press releases and, promoting them through social media, that as well as asking chambers and other community-based organizations to push it out to their members. And, I will say this always is a challenge in getting the public engagement. It used to be we'd have town hall meetings, but not everybody wants to do that either. So, and because there are so many different ways that people get their news, it kind of is an interesting research subject to say what does the public think is the best way that we could reach them on things like this. And, we just try to do as many different avenues as we can.
thank you, Vicky. Is there any other? Come on up, I was just gonna ask you.
And then like with our local survey, not this one, but our City of Angels Strategic Planning Survey, we also put the link on the water bills. We kind of just tried to plaster it wherever we can. But yeah, it's hard to get everybody out there.
My experience, because kind of what I do, is you have to do all of them, like Jen is saying, you have, excuse me, Vice Mayor Herman is saying, you have to go old school and new school. So maybe just Rebecca sending the information out to Angels Community Club, to ACBA, DAC has it, Angels Murphy's Rotary, just, the little organizations within the city might be really helpful, just a direct hit, so.
And that's what I had to do on ours. I sent it to all of the faith-based organizations, to all the homeowners associations I could find. We've tried to, took it to the library, so we'll have to do the same.
What about newspapers? I mean, the Union
We
Democrat.
would do a press
and the-
release.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, the Enterprise.
Any other public comment online in the house? All right, that was an informational thing only. Fawn, Vicky, thank you very much, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. And then we'll just have to coordinate with the county, because we don't want to do our press release.
On
And
top
they're
of
doing a
it,
press release,
yeah.
that's the same information.
Right. Item 7B, approved resolution 2271, establishing the City of Angels Register of Cultural Resources. Amy.
Mr. Mayor and council members, there are no less than 11 goals, policies, and implementation programs in the general plan calling for or relying upon the adoption of a local register of cultural resources. Basically, we were recently working with the Utica Hotel, and they wanted to use the State Historic Building Code, and traditionally, you are required to be on a local register in order to be qualified to use the State Historic Building Code, which for anybody who's not used to it, it allows some flexibility under the building code so that you don't have to necessarily meet modern standards, but you can have some flexibility since obviously some of our buildings are from the 1800s. So this was considered by the Planning Commission at their October 13th meeting, and they unanimously recommended approval. I did want to point out that I defined a cultural resource here. That's something that a cultural resource may include. It is not a definition that has to be adopted as part of the resolution. It was there for informational purposes only. And I would be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Council staff questions? At the moment, is there any public comment in the house? Any online? Not seeing anybody or anything. Okay. So pass that, I would look for an approval of Resolution 2271, establishing the City of Angels Register of Cultural Resources.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second, or go ahead, Jim.
I'll say.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody disapprove, same sign? All right, regular agenda item C, approve resolution 2272, adding the Utica Hotel located at 1270, 1276 South Main Street of City Register and the Cultural Resource. Amy is up again.
Mr. Mayor and council members, now that you have a City of Angels Register of Cultural Resources, the Utica Hotel would like to become your first listing on the register and has so applied and be happy to answer any questions. The Planning Commission did review their proposal to be included on the register and unanimously approved their request and recommend that you do so.
So I have a question. So this is great that we have one. What's the intent to like outreach for potential others, or now that we have a policy in place, a historic registry in place, what's the plan?
We can send out a notice to everybody who's on our 2011 inventory, who's already been declared eligible.
Okay.
However, surprisingly, whenever any historical building undertakes a project, they will likely also want to be added. We already have our second application, in fact, which we'll be bringing to you shortly. So yes, we will do some outreach in terms of probably just a mail out initially.
And then this is the process for each and every time?
Yes.
Okay.
I have a question. I had always been under the impression that if you claim your building as a historical building, it's harder to do things. Possibly get bank loans or do rehabs to it because now you can't structurally change, say, the front of your building, or because now it's a historical site. Is that not true?
So whether or not you're on a register, you have to comply with Secretary of the Interior standards. If you're in an historic area or your building's 50 years of age or older and might be important. However, this particular register is incentive-based. You get on it in order to get something. In this case, you get on it if you want to perhaps do the Mills Act, which we'll be bringing to you. That's a property tax break if you rehab an older building. This in itself does not add a restriction to you. If you're qualified to be on here, you're qualified under CEQA to have additional regulations put on you already in terms of changing the facade of your building. Our register is only looking at the front of buildings. It doesn't go to do to the interior. However, it does allow you to be more flexible in what you can do to your interiors. But yes, it would preserve the facade, not quite to the extreme that some people believe it to be.
Interesting.
I have a question. So does this apply to buildings that are already under construction, like the Load Hotel is already in some form of construction? Does it retroactively go back if they apply for this, or is it just from the day forward when they?
It doesn't matter if it's under rehabilitation or not.
Okay.
You have to, at the time you apply, qualify to be on the register. The criteria is in the list there, and basically you have to have some integrity left to the building in order to qualify. Although in Angels Camp we actually have a potential National Register district, and there are some things that contribute to it without individually necessarily being important, but they contribute to the overall context of the street, and so therefore could potentially also be included on the local register.
Council staff questions anymore? Public comment? Anybody out there? How about online? Okay, I would look for a motion to approve resolution 2272.
I will make the motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed, same sign? One motion. Item D, discussion and direction on clean CA monument signs. Amy.
There we go. There is a slideshow up on the screen, and we also have Rebecca Nealon online, I do believe. There she is. Hello. I'm going to basically do a quick run through. This is a Calaveras Council of Governments sort of, and Calaveras County sort of oversight project. Jubilee is actually under contract to handle this funding, not through the city, but through, you're actually contracted, Rebecca, with the Council of Governments, I believe, or Calaveras County. You're actually Calaveras County, I believe. So anyway, as you will recall, there was a study done a long time ago that designed some monument signs. Next slide, please. And these will hopefully look familiar to you. Is there any way to make that full screen? No, darn. Okay. And next slide. And the idea was that there would be both wayfinding signs, small signs that were directional and pointed you in different directions, and the monument signs. We had picked out some general ideas about where we wanted some of these signs to be in terms of gateways were sort of an emphasis for where the signs would go. Next slide. This shows roughly where they were going to be located. And next slide. Bottom line is there were 5 monument signs proposed for Angels Camp. Under Clean California, they were going to install 4 of them. However, the exact locations of those signs are why I'm here tonight, we've done some slight revisions to them because Caltrans requires you to either be a certain height or a certain distance away from the road for your monument signs. You can't just put them on the side of the road. They also, under this funding source, want them to be on public property and not on private property. So of course, you initially realize that, oh, the one as you're coming in from Sonora, for example, that's on the right, where that existing sign is, was where we had planned to put a monument sign. Well, the monument sign's gonna go really, really close to that, but it's going to go on public property a little bit south of that, just a few feet south of that. And our big problem, next slide, is actually this particular sign, monument sign, which was supposed to go over along above Tryon Park and along the creek. Well, we have an Angels Creek Trail that's going there, and there's a flood zone, and there's a road. We cannot fit the road, the trail, and the sign, and avoid the flood zone all in one place. So, next slide. The proposal is to take one of the frog signs, when I say frog signs, the monument signs either come with or without frogs. Take one with frogs and put it at the intersection of Vallecito Road and Highway 4, so that as people are coming down the road, they see this great sign and think, oh, that looks like a nice place. We might just not want to zip by, maybe we want to turn on and go into downtown Angels Camp. And so the proposal is to remove the sign that was supposed to be here on Vallecito Road up to that intersection. That's the main change. Next slide. One of the other options that's been brought about is there was supposed to be, and still is, a sign as you come down 4 and come up to 4 and 49. And you'll see on this map where that sign was supposed to go, and it has a slash through it. We're asking for your recommendation. The idea was that perhaps we also eliminate that sign because in that particular location, it is there's so much going on. The sign would get lost in that particular location. And we've had some challenges with either having to put it up so high that you don't see it, or having to put it down so low that the background has got junk behind it, or things that don't necessarily look very aesthetically pleasing if you place the sign in that.
And this is coming down Highway 4 before you get to the intersection of 4 and 49 on the right-hand side right there?
Correct.
Okay.
So.
This is on the right-hand
This
side
is Guy
coming for,
Jordan's.
yeah, so it's,
Right
what's
there.
going on that's so busy right there that you're speaking to, I guess is what I'm not understanding.
Okay, so
Past
there's a
Guy
turnout
Jordan's.
there, there's a turnout there, and if you look behind it, you have to physically go there, and darn, I did not include a photograph, I should have. Is a bunch of stuff stored out there, there's also a turnout that people use to get off the road there.
Well, then we just put the one up higher at the intersection of Stockton and
Oh, yeah, so then it's kind of a double.
you doubled, I don't know, in my opinion, you kind of doubled up, so if you
Yeah.
put the one up there at the intersection and you lose the one there, that's okay. I don't know, keep going, I'm sorry.
That's basically it. Otherwise, next slide.
Let me,
And
actually,
go
let me
ahead to
send
the
you back
next
for 1
slide.
second.
And we'll go to a summary slide and the
Okay.
next slide. So, well, actually, let's go one more slide.
Mhm.
I didn't need these as much as I thought I would. I can go one by one through each of the locations and show you exactly where they've been moved to and from. And then get your input on that. Again, the main interest here is removing that particular sign and moving it to the intersection, 1. 2, option, also removing what might be a redundant sign, what might look too busy in the background. And again, that's your input we're looking for. But starting with the sign as you're coming in from Sonora into Angels Camp, you can see that particular circle, that's the PG&E.
Yep.
And then that road, there's a little driveway, there's a guardrail. And my first reaction when Rebecca said, oh, we're gonna put it behind the guardrail was, no, you're not gonna put that really beautiful sign behind a guardrail. They're going to raise it up so that the bottom of the sign, and then you have your rock podium, and then you have your frogs. So basically, the monument will be sitting at the height of the guardrail, and so it will not be blocking it. And then next. Nope, that's the only one I had, okay. So that one's getting moved. The others are pretty much where they're supposed to be. Your main question is going to be your feelings about moving the sign up to the intersection of Vallecito Road and Highway 4, and whether or not we should include that other sign as you come into town. One of the things and Rebecca can jump in here, the cost savings in removing one of the signs, or in relocating the sign. If we also then remove the sign as you're coming into 4, we can then add frogs onto most of the signs that we're putting in, as opposed to having the plain ones versus the ones with frogs.
So say that one more time, removing the one closer to the 4 and 49 intersection,
Yes.
and what other one?
So if we relocated the Vallecito one up,
Mm-hmm,
and then remove the one as you're coming down 4 up to the 449 intersection,
yep,
then the one that's gonna go up at Vallecito at Vallecito and 4 ends up having the frogs.
okay.
Yeah.
So we just lose the one still,
Gain.
and we move this one from here up the road.
Yes.
Okay, and we gain the frogs on it.
Yes. I'm glad somebody follows that. It's all very complicated, but yeah. So
I actually like the new location as opposed to the other
Yeah.
one, far better coming down.
Yeah,
I don't think we
when
needed 2 on 4.
And when we initially received this report, I think that was one of my things, was that I felt like you're here in town when it was located here, so I like including that.
Rebecca, did I leave anything out?
No, you got that. That was perfect. Thank you. And definitely, Caltrans was having a lot of heartburn about the
I
frogs.
don't know.
And so that has been cleared, and they're good to go to move forward with that. So we will be able to get the frogs onto these signs. It's kind of considered transportation art, and it takes a lot of extra reviews from them. But because this has already been approved, it's an approved plan for the city, they're okay in this one case making that exception. So the frogs will be there. So the sign as you're coming in from Vallecito, you have plenty of space, so we can have that nice big sign. As you're coming in from Copperopolis, the one that'll be up at the Vallecito corner would also be one of the larger signs. And then the other 2, the one as you're coming in just past
Tractor Supply, and then this one at the PG&E turnout will be not as wide, but they'll both be able to still have the rocks.
Why Tractor Supply? Why in town? Why not?
I'm not. Oh, yeah,
It's
you
not
know,
bad
when
Tractor
I
Supply.
spoke to you guys
Yeah,
earlier,
but I'm
you
talking
wanted to
about
move
that
up
one
to Capello. And I went up and looked at that location. The Caltrans requirement is that it's either 52 feet off of the side of the road, which on Highway 49 is an enormous, I mean, Highway 49 is hardly 52 feet wide. So you have to be 52 feet off the side of the road, or you have to be 7 feet above the road. So it really limits your locations where you can place them. I went up and I looked at Capello, and there's, as you're coming into town, the road, the shoulder of the terrain actually drops pretty steeply. So there isn't a good location to put a sign right before Capello. So I went up the road a little bit, and you get to a spot where you do have a hillside, and you'd basically be building this monument sign on a hill right next to somebody's fence. So it's not exactly an attractive location either. Talking to Amy, you know, we have an existing sign. Amy, do you know the name of that turn? There's kind of like a knoll in the road, and
Senior
there's an
Francis,
existing sign
and
there.
it happens
There's all
that
that.
our North Main Street plan identifies a sign in that location,
Right.
to go in that location. The sign originally was not proposed clear up at Capello. It was originally proposed closer to the Altaville School. And that was a little hectic in there too. So the idea is to put it on that large grassy area that's going to be developed for a sitting area, pedestrian, and where the sign is, to put it there instead.
So it's in that little park strip. there.
Yes.
The turnout.
Yeah.
Hi, Rebecca, by the way, again.
Hello, how are you?
Good.
Yeah, these are challenging signs to place, so it took us quite a while to figure out good spots for all of them. I think we have finally figured it out. So
And
hopefully
Caltrans is
everybody's
good?
happy with these locations.
And Caltrans is fine with these new locations, 100%?
They are.
They've signed their sign
Yeah.
off and everything is good?
Yep, they're happy, they're ready to move forward. We just need to get this one blessed. This
And
is the
correct
one
me
that's
if
gonna
I'm
move
wrong,
up
but
to
these would be
Old
going
Vallecito
in,
and 4.
these have to go in before June of next year.
They're trying, and we're trying.
Okay.
So it's a quick delivery, a quick turnaround.
Any other staff council questions? If not, I'll open it up public. Okay, public comments. Come on, Mr. Joe.
Okay, if, assuming they're still thinking about a roundabout, 449, is there any way to put that sign in the middle of it?
That's a whole, go ahead.
And that's also another point that I did not bring up, is if one does something like that in that roundabout, it would be pretty redundant to have one just a few feet
At
away
Francis,
up
yeah.
at that 4. Well, I meant like at 4 coming in.
Oh,
At the
right,
449.
right, the
So you're
one
gonna
that
see
we're
a sign
eliminating.
and a sign, you're gonna see a lot of signs really
Yeah.
quick. So.
She's talking about.
And
Yes.
I think, Joe, we get
talked
to,
about
if the roundabout comes, I think we get to kind of do a design in the middle of that anyways, not just, I think is what, yeah.
Cool.
Okay. Any other public comment in the house? If not, I'll move to online. Anything online? Okay. Any other questions before we move to approving it? I think, right? Discussion and direction. So, direction, I'm good with the locations.
Yes, me also, same.
Okay, that's a, good, Rebecca, please go forward.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rebecca.
Thanks, Rebecca. Item E, approve purchase and installation of a SCADA software and approve resolution 2273, budget amendment. Mr. Chris O'Flynn.
So pretty much the information is in the packet. Our SCADA system pretty much has failed us at the water treatment plant. It's really outdated and needs to be replaced. We did have it scheduled to be replaced during the next treatment plant upgrade, but unfortunately we cannot wait until then. So I'm looking for approval to go ahead and purchase the software and have it installed.
How long does it take for them to put it in for you?
Pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're pretty much ready to go as soon as we say, do it.
Who else has questions?
Any questions?
Staff?
Gotta do it.
Council? Okay. Any public comment or questions? In the house? Online? Okay, this one seems pretty cut and dry.
Thanks. I'll make the motion. I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed, same sign? Passes. Okay, item F, rescind resolution 12-05, resolution recognize and support Destination Angels Camp Corporation, DBA Destination Angels Camp, as a nonprofit organization serving as an economic development corporation for Angels Camp. Rebecca.
Okay. So we have met with Destination Angels Camp since I came on, trying to determine exactly, who's on first, what's on second, and as Roy Giannini, mentioned, I think things got a little blurred just because of COVID, turnover, changes in who was doing what and where and why. And so it got a little cloudy in terms of who needed to be doing what. And so I think we've just kind of both struggled trying to figure out, whose responsibility is what and what this relationship is or isn't. And so the Destination Angels Camp board met. They voted, and the recommendation was to go ahead and ask us to rescind Resolution 1205, which 1205 was approved back in 2012. It came upon the heels of after the formation of the brand leadership team, and then there was a lot of I don't think anyone here was around or that involved in the city at that time, but Destination Angels Camp, the city and Council of Governments coordinated to work on a lot of plans. So the historic downtown plan, the North Angels plan, there's a lot of plans that we rely on to this day in terms of what we want to see going forward. So as an example, at the last meeting, council approved the projects for the call for projects. So that was the Angels Creek Trail, as well as the Raspberry Hardscrabble intersection right there. That comes from plans that were developed through the workings of Destination Angels Camp, Council of Governments, and the City of Angels. That was an important relationship, but it was just a different relationship back then. So just things have changed, and I think we just need to kind of figure out what that relationship is going forward. And the city itself, we have to be really careful about how we defer our responsibilities onto another agency, and we're pretty limited in being able to do that. We accept the liability no matter what. So that's why it's really important that we have contracts in place for any work that is going to be done on behalf of the city. All of the funds that we have are public funds, so there's a lot of scrutiny on them. And so their mission, as Ms. Giannini stated, to create a vibrant business environment showcasing Angels Camp strengths and uniqueness, cultivate social and educational opportunities, and improve upon the tourism infrastructure year-round for residents, businesses, and visitors through economic and destination development. We absolutely support that mission. We support the Calaveras Visitors Bureau's mission. We support the Chamber of Commerce's mission. All of those things are very important to kind of our regional fiber and how we move forward. And it's just trying to figure out exactly what that looks like and what that means. So for sure, continued collaboration with Destination Angels Camp is certainly supported. And we just need to find projects that are specific to residents and businesses within the City of Angels. We can certainly engage with Destination Angels Camp with the proposed scope of work. That can either be initiated by the city, if we have a specific project that we need assistance from them on, or certainly Destination Angels Camp could certainly bring forward some sort of economic development program or project that they would want assistance from the city, as long as it's beneficial to businesses and residents, and there's a scope of work and an associated price structure. And then we'd be able to engage in an agreement for service, just like we do with other consultants that we defer work to. But that's it. I did include the letter from Tim Oskey requesting us to rescind the resolution. I included the resolution 1205, so you can read it. And then just kind of information on economic development corporations, and you know what they are, what their exemptions are, and you know, I don't think it's the end of a relationship with Destination Angels Camp. We certainly will continue to reach out to them and incorporate them in things that we can find, you know, assistance on. But I think the administrative model, which is kind of what it has turned into, it just doesn't fit with the scrutiny that we have on our budget today.
Council questions? Staff questions? Have we opened up to public comment? Any public comment at the moment in the House?
Just me. Just me
Come on
again.
up again.
Just me without a crown.
I'll make you one.
I say, I'm gonna get you.
I had one, Vice Mayor wore it.
I brought it, a ticket to her.
I had it for a minute.
It's heavy. You don't ruin it, it's just heavy.
I was actually chairing the meeting where this happened. This is just outdated.
Yeah.
And our new bylaws, according to your attorney, we can't have, you know, city council members be voting members. That's in here. It's just very, very outdated. So we would definitely entertain an alternate resolution that just says, hey, we love you and we like you and we're going to work together, and that would be great. It's just this particular resolution is outdated. So we need to, you know, but we would definitely love a redo
Yeah.
that reflects 2022 and, you know, what our place is, and doesn't have to be very specific, but just that you, as the city, you know, want to work with us and you support our efforts. So I think a new resolution would be really wonderful. So, thank you.
Thank you, Laura.
Thank you.
Any other public comment in the House? Joe?
Calaveras, City of Angels. Reading through the rescinding order, I see at the bottom, it says financial impact, none. So thinking that through, my understanding was that the city made a contribution to that. So at a minimum, there's a cost avoidance. Offsetting that is, you heard the value that was brought by DAC over the years. So, did that exceed what you were paying or not? And then for the services that you're going to need, economic development's a reality. We should be, the city, looking at that in some way, shape, or form. So how do you proceed, and how do you estimate what those costs are? You know, we're kind of unique in a small town. It's hard to say what other towns are doing. Sonora is different than us. You know, but there ought to have been some effort, I think, in the staff analysis to give you something to get a feel for, okay, we're walking away from this, but is it really financially, you know, a zero-sum game? And I don't think it is. So I would just recommend that you consider that. That it may end up costing more, and clarity in a new agreement might benefit you. Thanks.
Thank you, Joe.
Thanks, Joe.
Anybody else? Rose, online, I'll move there next.
None.
None online?
Okay.
I would look for a motion to rescind resolution 12.0 or 12-05. Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second the motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed, same sign? Okay. Item G, approve resolution number 2274, approve police officer trainee job description and salary. Rebecca.
Okay, so if you recall, I came and asked for incentive pay for trying to recruit police officers, and that helped a little bit, but not to the extent that we hoped that it would. So what we're running into is pretty much the same thing that every police department and sheriff's department is running into, which is just a really difficult time recruiting. And so we've tried to use the incentive pay as a recruiting tool, but it's just not working to the extent that we need it to, and we still have a vacancy that we have been unable to fill. So the city actually used to do this, I don't know how long ago, but yeah. Anyway, we would like to bring it back. This is a similar program that's in a lot of other agencies, but in essence, what we can do is create temporary positions that are not post, and we can send them through post, through the academy. So when they come out, they can actually be a sworn police officer and come work for us and fill a vacant position that they otherwise wouldn't have qualified for. The benefit of it is certainly we would put this out just like as any other recruitment, so anyone really can apply for it as long as they're, meet the requirements to be a police officer, so 21 citizen basic information. But the likelihood is we probably will get more local residents or people that are close by. What we've been running into is we might get an applicant, they live out of the area, they're interested in the job, they can't find housing. So that's something we're really struggling with. So we think, and the police chief and I have talked about this, and we've kind of done some research, that if we created 2 fully benefited temporary positions, they'd be contracted for a 10-month period. That 10-month period would cover the post-academy as well as some kind of onboarding training right along with non-sworn activities. And then we would get them through backgrounds and psych evaluations, enroll them in the next post-academy, which I think is in March of next year. And then we would enter into an employment contract that would be effective once they kind of pass the background, pass the psych, because those are the 2 hurdles that they have to get through. And then they would go into the academy in March, and then upon graduation, we could offer them a position, assuming, we've got 1 vacancy, and, in essence, almost a year from now, we might have another vacancy. If we didn't have another vacancy, they would be able to come on as reserve officer, which we do have reserve officer budget. And they could stay on working for us as a reserve officer or another entity as a reserve officer until such time we would have a vacancy, and then they could certainly apply for that. It would be a contracted employee, meaning that it's only for that 10-month period. They have to, there's no, you're absolutely gonna, get the job. It's dependent on us having a vacancy, which we do have right now. If they don't pass post, then that's it, our relationship is over. It is fully benefited, meaning it would have health insurance, vision, dental. It would be PEPRA, PERS.
During that 10
During
months.
that period of time. They would get kind of, for the most part, all of the benefits that a full-time employee would get, just not represented by the union. And we currently have savings from the vacancy, and with the additional cost of the post academy and equipment and the additional salary for the temporary positions, I think the net impact to the budget is just over $45,000. And it's just kind of where we're at. So we've got to figure out how we can get people that maybe have kind of thought about doing, going into law enforcement. But it's pretty hard to go do a post academy and have a job. You really can't. You have to kind of make that commitment and move over. So this is a way to get them a paid avenue to be closer by.
Okay, I have a couple questions. So let's say someone comes on and they're interested in this job. Before we go through and offer them all of this, they have to pass psych?
Yep.
Before we introduce this. Okay, and then how long is the academy?
It's
About 5.5 months.
Yeah.
5.5 months, okay. So 6 months, okay. And then during that time, are we not going to be looking to hire anyone else, or we're still allowed to look to hire? I mean, like, we don't want to lose a unicorn because we have somebody potentially going through classes, right? So how does that, I mean, is it one or the other?
So obviously, we've been in this predicament now for 7-8 months since we lost the last officer, and then having one out on an injury for over a year now. We've been through hiring several different people, and it's fallen apart for some reason during the hiring process. My thoughts are, we put 2 guys through the academy. If we find somebody in the meantime, so we've maybe hopefully put 2 local people through the academy that we can hire on as a reserve. So, they work 10 hours a month or something like that. But then they're there, ready to come on board the second we have a vacancy. So we're not going through this nightmare of, okay, now we've got to post it, now we've got to hope we get some applicants, which I haven't seen an application, honestly, in probably over a month. Not a single application. And we can just plug these guys, we'll have somebody in the background just waiting to plug into one of those open positions, assuming they don't leave to go to another
Yeah, I was
agency.
gonna say, can they go and work some of that stuff?
Yeah, there's always that potential, but I also hope that, they understand that we put them through the academy, we paid for them. Hopefully they're local, so they have a desire to work in Angels Camp, live in Angels Camp, be part of Angels Camp, if not at least the county somewhere. So there's no guarantees in anything, but I would anticipate within the next 10 to 12 months, instead of 1 vacancy, we'll have 2 vacancies. I'm just guessing. So if we did have those 2, I probably wouldn't fill both of those vacancies by outsiders. At least one of the 2 people that we put through the academy would have a guaranteed spot to get hired on if we had 2 vacancies, for sure, at some point. So, that would be what I would like to do, and that's hoping that maybe sometime in the next 6 months somebody comes along that's worth us putting our time and effort into, which would almost mean it would almost have to be a lateral from another agency, which would be very beneficial to us. I was just talking to someone back there. These academies these days, so back when I went, you had probably 50 people in the academy. 40 of them were what we call independents. I mean, you're not sponsored, you're putting yourself through the academy. these days you look at an academy class, and you look at a picture of academy, and you've got 40 guys in there, and 35 are already sponsored by other agencies, because every agency is hiring people beforehand, sponsoring them, and putting them through the police academy. Because that's the only way, you can't work a full-time job and go through the academy, because you're not getting you're not being compensated. So there's potential for, some of these younger guys with families that might want to be police officers, but they're doing something else, but they can't just put themselves to the academy because they can't afford it.
Yeah.
So there's potential to, get some of these potential applicants that want to be police officers, and this is an opportunity for them to get paid to go through the police academy and get hired on in the department.
And then once they graduate, they only are contracted with us for 10 months?
No.
No,
that's
This is
part of
a
it.
10-month period.
That's
This is the
That was one of
It's
my
the ride
questions.
along
Part
for
of it?
now,
Okay.
and then in March, right, is the next post class,
Yeah.
and that's 6 months.
So they
from
graduate,
now-
Okay.
that post class will graduate in August. They may don't come on full time before then, so that contract will just be ended, and then they'd be now as one police officer with the department.
It's just to cover that unsworn period of
And
time.
it's $45,000.
Scott, can't we add the language to have them indebted to us for a
Yeah,
period of
no.
time?
You
My
can't,
question.
no, you can't.
What, I thought that was, when you say sponsor, the guys that are down there, or
So they're-
individuals that are down there in the academy are already being sponsored. Don't they have an obligation to come back for?
They have an obligation, but there's nothing that binds it. There's nothing that's legally binding to it, so you can have them sign a contract saying
But
they'll
it's
stay
not
here for
extended.
3 years. I think you may be able to come back and get some of the percentage of the academy costs, but none of the personnel costs or anything like that are gonna be recuperated. It could be a
Is
portion.
it worth trying to have some language in there as, in their contract?
It's not enforceable.
But they don't know
Yeah, but
that.
they don't know that.
They do.
They know
So
that.
I'm just worried about making the
As-
investment
Right.
2 times and
And then
then
they
coming
go-
back with
So
any.
if I do, and I know, your word is only worth what it is, when I have conversations with
I
guys
know.
during my application processes, I clearly lay it out to them that my expectation is that they're willing to put in at least 3 years with our department.
Yeah.
Whether they stick to that or not, I honestly haven't had that circumstance yet where somebody's left before that was given to them. But we do have that verbal conversation. It's them knowing that they're going back on their word on me if they leave before then.
During the time that they're in the academy, what's your contact with them? Is it
We have-
a lot of communication?
Yeah, so we have 2, actually both my sergeants are field training officers, so they'll be, one of the 2 of them at least will be assigned to them, and they'll probably go down to the academy monthly or bi-monthly to go check on them, check their files, make sure they're doing everything.
Help them?
Yeah, help them, and,
Okay.
we'll have it, if they're having problems with, shooting the range or something, then we'll bring them up here on one of their days off, and we'll go shoot at the range and try to get them squared away. So they have support from the police department while they're in the academy. And the other benefit of putting 2 through is that they have each other
Yeah.
to, to study with, to drive back and forth with, to talk about the academy, to talk about problems that they're having. So it just helps ensure the success of both individuals.
If we only get, or did you go?
My questions were what we just
No.
talked about.
If you only have one person that's interested right now, or before this March, right, because coming up in March, if you only get one, are we gonna try and put one through, or are you gonna wait for
Yeah,
the?
no, I mean, if I don't want to wait.
I know you don't.
To me, there would be no point, no point in holding up for a second one, waiting to hope that we get a second applicant or whatever.
And is there 2 academies per year?
So Delta has at least 2, and Stanislaus County has at least 2. My preference is to put them through the Stanislaus County Academy. I already have 2 spots reserved. Obviously, there's no financial obligation at this point, but they're holding 2 spots for me, just in hopes that we're able to put 2 through. If we only put 1 through, then they'll keep 1 spot for us. And that academy starts on March 23rd. So it's also important too that we get the ball rolling, because we've got to get them through background psych and medical before they start the academy.
So I'll back up too. Thank you. I see your trailer out there. I know you're short-staffed. I know all your staff is working overtime, so thank you to you and your staff, by the way, too.
I'll be working patrol tomorrow if you need anything.
I hope to be good.
Yeah.
Who else do you have
So
questions?
last question for me, the bonuses are not in play with this scenario, or are they?
They would be.
In addition to us investing in their training, we're also investing in a bonus?
Yeah, and then
Assigning.
incentivizes them not to go somewhere else.
Only if they come back to work here
They have to come here.
after,
Yeah,
after
Got
the
to sign
academy.
on.
yeah,
And that's the non-lateral bonus
that's
too.
the non-lateral.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
smaller, okay.
Yeah,
Right.
Smaller bonus than the lateral bonus.
but
So
and
it's
we're
the same.
having to get fairly creative to
And
get
it sounds like
everybody else.
it sounds like other departments are doing the same thing, so I mean, possibly in hopes, maybe you have a kid that's down in the valley that's not interested in living down there, buddies up with our guy, and then we get two of them, even though we only put one through the
Yeah.
academy. Is that, do they all kind of move, I mean, if this is what all police departments are starting to do, then it's just it's part of business now, right? I
Yeah.
mean, putting people through, so whether we get our own guy or we get a guy from Modesto, as long as we end up with one of them, it's kind of a wash.
Yeah, well, and obviously the goal is to get two guys from up here because you've got guys that are vested in this community
Right.
versus a guy from Modesto who, yeah, he may stick around 2 or 3 years, but he's probably gonna be looking to go back down there, myself included. Back when I started here, I started in my 1 year here, and then I went down to Turlock for 16 years after that. But if we can get, ideally, you know, a couple guys from up here that are already vested in the community, they're gonna wanna work here and
So
stay
then
here.
you're just rolling the dice, whether you get your own hometown kid or you get somebody
Yeah,
else
the-
possibly.
And it's easier if someone is semi-local here because, you know, either Amador, Calaveras, Tuolumne, because then we don't run into a housing issue. So it's really hard for someone to come from
draw them
out of
in.
the area and then try to find housing here. There's nowhere, well, you just saw.
There's a
the-
trailer at the police
Yeah, I was
department.
gonna say, is there a trailer available? Can we park the car over there?
I mean, this is one of the points on the survey, is there's not enough workforce housing. There just isn't, whether you
Right.
rent or buy, it's just not there. So it's easier, you know, in order to kind of make that connection if they're already living semi-local.
Yeah, it's easy to say, oh yeah, I wanna move up to Angels Camp, until you realize you gotta look for a place to live and that there's really not much there.
Right. For me, I mean, you can't hire anybody right now, and I get it, it's hard.
Yeah.
And the $45,000 hit to the budget scares me, but I understand where it's coming from too. So I think if we can jive the numbers and make it work, then it's probably something we have to do. So, there's my 2 cents.
And I, you know, with this, I'm hoping by doing it this way and hoping that we get some local interest, that we get some long-term investment from these individuals that actually want to stick around. Because if you know the history of the police department, is it's been a training ground.
Yeah.
Is that guys come and they work here for a couple of years and then they go to a bigger agency and they go, and I can't fault them because we only have so much to offer. But if we have local guys that are familiar with the police department, they're familiar with the community, they're familiar with what we do, they're more likely to stick around. I mean, Chris Adams, the police department, he's been there for 16 years or whatever. He's not leaving, he's not going anywhere. So we're looking for guys like that, well before or after I leave, that they stick around and can promote to sergeants and, chief someday or something like that.
You got another 20 in you.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
All right.
Any other questions, council, staff? Public comment? Online? I forget which one is this one. Item G. So I'm looking for an approval of resolution 2274. I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody disapprove, same sign. 401. Item H, review council calendar for November and December. Review and to discuss strategic planning and the 2 meetings in December. Ms. Rose.
So as you guys know, the strategic planning survey is going to be completed at the end of this month. So we want to know if you want to include it at a regular council meeting or have a separate special meeting to review the outcome of that survey. And then the other item 2 is last year in December, we had 1 meeting. We had canceled the second December meeting. We're wondering if you're wanting to do that again this year.
Say it to me one more time. I was right.
December 2nd meeting, if you want to cancel it, because it's very close to the holidays.
Okay.
So the strategic planning meeting,
So that's gonna be not only going over the survey results, but also discussing on a workshop level.
There. Okay.
There, yeah.
So that's what I want. Okay. So that answers my question. So,
it could be a lengthy, boisterous meeting.
Right.
So my
So-
vote is an all-day meeting here
That's what I would
to
suggest.
review and go over the whole shebang and come up with plans, not just review,
Yeah.
but go over with some plans. And
Yeah,
Joe
I
did it
would
with
say-
us. We did stickies on the wall over here and came up with some really good ideas and plans, and it was quite a few hours. But it was a good, we got a lot of production done too. So, and if City Gate's here to lead us, that'll help too.
Yep, so they, so I'll let them know, yeah, so I'll
That's
coordinate
fine.
with them on some dates.
Can we avoid that second week in November?
So not the second week in November, this week.
If possible.
And maybe a couple options would be good for
Like a
everybody.
Monday, Tuesday would be.
Well, we already have 2 council meetings on the 1st and
Yeah, but if
third.
we cancel the second council.
No, this is November.
Are we talking November or
Yeah,
December?
November.
Oh.
December, because it's really close. It's
You're
1,
talking
2,
about-
3.
I think we're getting our wires crossed. She's talking,
There's 2 different.
yeah, so we're discussing the
Strategic
right now,
November.
not-
Which, then we're doing that in November?
That's
As soon as we can schedule it, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it may not, yeah, depending on when everybody can meet. And then the second item would be,
The December meeting.
the December meeting is pretty darn close with people traveling for holidays.
Right.
Do we want to cancel the December meeting on the 20th?
I would say yes. If that's just
Me too.
If we can
That's
get all
the
our business
longest.
done in the first meeting of the month in December, then I'm for canceling the second meeting.
Is that legal?
Yes, you
Okay.
just have to give notice.
Yeah.
Okay, so if we did it like the third week in November,
That works, that Monday.
so we do Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday.
Sure.
So I will reach out to them and see which date works best for them.
Friday's not good.
What?
Friday's not good.
No, it's Monday, Wednesday,
Thursday, Friday, is that what you just said?
no Friday.
Oh, I thought she said Friday.
Oh, maybe.
I thought she
12,
said
14,
Monday.
15, is that what you're talking?
14,
16,
16,
or
or
17.
What about the 28th, 29th of November?
Oh, that's still, okay, sorry, I was not looking up. this.
No, I just noticed it.
Okay, 28, 29 or 30?
Yeah, that would
Work too.
be the week after Thanksgiving.
Okay.
The 29th wouldn't be horrible because that's a Tuesday, we just don't have a city council meeting that day.
Right.
We have UWPA though.
No, that's the week
No,
before.
we
Oh,
don't
that
have
is the week
in
before, that's
November.
right.
Okay, so maybe the 29th would work best.
Check it out.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, that was just direction, yes. Number 8, if you're done writing, administration report.
So just an update on our survey. So we have officially gotten as many responses as
5 counties.
5 counties. Which is pretty good.
That was actually a question I had, so thank you.
Yeah.
I thought we were gonna be at about 200.
Yeah, so we're like 221, 222. And so that was good. And then the shop local update, we are finding that we have no one's email addresses. So we'll be working on reaching out to the businesses to get their email addresses, and then we'll start enrolling businesses in that. So that's going to be coming up here shortly. So we'll be sending out marketing information to businesses with regards to shop local and helping them get set up. The audit is underway, so because the city had more than $750,000 in federal expenditures last fiscal year, we are doing a single audit. We had talked about that at the last meeting as well. So that's all going. The CDBG grant revisions and projects are moving ahead. We're just finishing up, Amy's back there, we're just finishing up the last of the paperwork that comes with CDBG. And then the next meeting, I will be bringing forward a agreement with the Calaveras Community Foundation on that $135,000 for the playground equipment. They just want assurance that we're gonna get that project going and spending that money right away. So we agreed we'll we'll commit to that, so that will be at the next council meeting. And anything else?
Okay. Council reports, I think was up next. Yeah.
Nope.
Nope. Have one.
Me?
You?
I volunteered at the Bret Hart Hall of Fame dinner, which was an amazing event, on the 8th. And that's really all that's gone on in the last 2 weeks. I'm gonna attend that Water, Wildfire, and Wine event this Thursday, and then a UWPA tour on Friday.
Okay. I'll be attending on Friday the UWPA also, the tour, and then we also had COG at the beginning of the month. Can you write an email for me, or driveelectric.gov? Driveelectric.gov. This is from the Caltrans report. There's going to be $56 million coming through for recharging stations. I'm not sure what that meant, or if it's grants, if it's what, I have no idea. But there's a chunk of change for Drive Electric, and there's going to be a lot of push for recharging stations. And I know we visited a while ago with Amanda and stuff, and it wasn't quite feasible, but maybe this could make it feasible or doable. I don't know. So that was just kind of neat. There was OWP, there was the original work programs we went over, there was call for projects. It was a good meeting. There was some budget adjustments. Calaveras Transit, there wasn't a whole heck of a lot other than the transit, the Paraservice Transit. They won an award for being outstanding, so which was really kind of nice to hear. And they do a pretty bang up job and do a good service for us. So that was pretty nice for them to be recognized. So that's all I got on that. And then I have UWP on Friday and next Tuesday. You're up.
I have nothing to report. I have one more thing.
What do you got?
So the flags, we got some complaints that the flags that get put up and down the city were looking a little tattered.
Sure.
So we are ordering all new flags to get put up, and then the Veterans District has graciously agreed to donate $2,000 towards replacing those flags. And then I am coordinating with the high school and other people who might want to be interested in doing a philanthropic put the flags up before Veterans Day. So I'm working on that just to take some load off of our public works staff that don't have a ton of time to be putting flags up. But yeah, so that'll be exciting. So we'll have all new flags. And thank you to the Veterans District.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you very much. Number 10, correspondence. Anything correspondence from anybody? Staff? Out in the audience? Online audience? Okay. Rose, you'll send us calendar item number 11. Already done?
Yes,
Check.
and we already reviewed it, so, yeah.
Next item will be number 12, adjournment. Have a motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed, same sign. Meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.